the Rams need to go after Darrell Henderson, and it is basically a no-brainer at this point. Before we dive into that, be sure to like, subscribe, and comment, and let's dive into this video. So, look, we already talked about Zach Evans. We talked about Royce Freeman. We talked about the injuries to Kyren Williams and Ronnie Rivers. And, of course, Kyren Williams could be back as soon as the game after the Steelers game, but he will not be available this weekend. And Ronnie Rivers is likely going on IR with an injury that could sideline him for more than 4 weeks. So what happens? What's next? Well, Darrell Henderson's next, or at least he should be. If you are going to go out and sign anyone, and currently right now you only have 2 running backs on the roster. After that, you'd have to start using maybe a Tutu Atwell, Ben Skoranek. I mean, it'd get kind of ugly, right? You're using guys completely out of their position to play a running back position that you need to do. You're going to have to mitigate a really, really tough Steelers pass rush that has basically won them 2 games this season out of their 3 wins. And the way you do that is by running the football. I do think this is going to be predominantly a passing attack type of day, and I do think the Rams can throw on the Steelers. But without any sort of threat on against, with the run, the Steelers are going to have their way with the Rams. And you could say what you will about Zach Evans. I'm excited about getting to see number 21 too. I like Freeman, but at the end of the day, we know Zach Evans is not a 3-down running back. He struggles too much in pass pro. He doesn't offer enough in the receiving game. And then Royce Freeman is too one-dimensional in the fact that he's more of a short yardage pass protection rounded back who averages 3.7 yards per carry for his career. So insert Darrell Henderson. And why? Well, the Rams have 2 running backs out. There are 2 running backs that are in. One has hardly any experience, only 4 carries in the NFL, a 6th rounder in Zach Evans. And the other one is Royce Freeman, who didn't even get a carry last week. So, against this tough front of the Pittsburgh Steelers, I think Darrell Henderson makes the most sense. He knows the offense for what it's worth. I mean, he's got familiarity at the very least with Matthew Stafford and Sean McVay. I will say, with the offense, it's a little different. I'd imagine they've definitely changed some things. The verbiage is probably different. They have to do that year after year because you have guys that leave and then they go other places, and you don't want that intel to spread to other, locker rooms and organizations and such. But for the most part, the basis of the Sean McVay system, Darrell Henderson knows. He was drafted in the 3rd round in 2019. A trade up with the New England Patriots allowed them to select him 75th overall. And this is somebody who has played a lot of games wearing the horns. He has also missed some games because of injuries, and that's been the biggest knock on him throughout his tenure with the Rams. He's currently a free agent, and he has been, working out with all different places. He was cut last year, and what I was told is the cut was more so to get him some valuable reps on film right before a contract year. And moving on with a now healthy Kyren Williams and Cam Akers, who, felt like he needed to be the guy in order to succeed. That was really the move. It wasn't anything against Henderson. I don't think they have anything against him. I think there could be something, if Henderson wanted to come back to the Rams. I'm sure the Rams should be interested. But I think this needs to happen. Henderson ran for 1,742 yards so far in his career, 396 carries, 13 touchdowns rushing, including 1,071 yards after contact, 59 missed tackles forced, 49 10-plus yard runs, and he has 272 zone runs in his arsenal, but he also has 120 gap scheme runs. Now, I understand some people might say this isn't a fit anymore. The Rams have gone to more of a gap scheme, run blocking scheme, so to speak. But he's run 120 times gap scheme wise. Henderson also adds, not just as a runner, but Henderson adds receiving ability that the Rams, I don't believe, currently have on the roster, not on the level of Henderson, a guy that can run a full route tree at the running back spot. Talk about 66 receptions, 89 targets, 474 yards, 665 routes run, and only 4 drops. That's a lot of routes to run. And they ran a ton of them. He ran over 200 his last year with the Rams and didn't even play the full year. Henderson has only allowed 1 sack in pass protection. Mind you, going back to 2019, Darrell Henderson was drafted with, of course, Todd Gurley still on the roster. They drafted him knowing Todd Gurley's days were numbered in LA. They knew that arthritic knee was going to be a problem, and so they drafted insurance. But in the meantime, they felt like he could do a nice job of being a change of pace back for Todd Gurley. At Memphis, this is one of the best zone runners in college football at the point. And he averaged almost 8 yards. I believe it was 8 yards per carry at Memphis. This is somebody that was going to add that. Now, the thing that became very evident is immediately in the NFL, he was ready to go in pass protection. That's something Todd Gurley was good at, so it wasn't a big deal in 2019. But you start to see in 2020, 2021, and 2022, Darrell Henderson was one of the better pass protectors in football. And he's only allowed 1 sack and 6 pressures in 108 snaps for his career. So 108 reps in pass protection. He's only allowed 1 sack and 6 pressures. That's a hell of a job by Henderson over the course of a 4-year span. Henderson in 2020 ran for 6.6 yards per carry, running towards the right guard spot. He also had 4.6 in between the center and right guard. The Rams have mainly been running more up the middle, instead of more of those outside zone runs that, we saw a lot early on in Sean McVay's tenure. And the thing is, I think the common misconception is that Darrell Henderson needs to be on the run. He needs to get a toss crack to the outside. That's not necessarily the case. As a matter of fact, I don't think that's the case at all. I think Henderson's vision is very well evident. You've seen it on film before. I've showed it on film. I did a full breakdown between him and Cam Akers last year and why he was the better running back. Darrell Henderson reads and reacts. It's a quick thing. He doesn't dance in the backfield, and I think he's very similar to Kyren Williams. Now, I also want to bring up why I think Darrell Henderson wasn't brought back for the Rams. I think they tried to diversify their running back room. I think they came to the conclusion that Cam Akers and Kyren Williams and then Zach Evans was going to be your guys. Well, Ronnie Rivers ended up having a really good camp. Cam Akers didn't want to be a part of any sort of committee. And Zach Evans is a 6th rounder who lost his starting job twice in college and has deficiencies in pass protection. So when you think about it, the Rams, what ended up happening is now Kyren Williams gets thrusted into that role. They don't have a guy like Cam Akers, so really they end up having 2 guys that are very similar in play in Ronnie Rivers and Kyren Williams. And then you have Zach Evans, and now you have Royce Freeman, who you signed. But aside from that, you really don't have a Cam Akers, big back or so forth. I think Henderson's short yardage, his ability in short yardage has been very much underrated. And I could do a deep dive, but we're not doing a full-on film breakdown deep dive about this. We're talking about just, the implications of what this move could mean, and if they do it, of course. And furthermore, why it makes sense. And I think, going back to, 2022, 5.9 yards per carry when running between the center and left guard, 4.7 when running at the left guard. This guy's had success running in between the guards and centers. I mean, that's the thing. Okay. It's not just he's a zone guy. It's not just he's an outside runner. This guy can actually run up the gut, and he can do it with decisiveness, and he could stab his way up the middle, even if he doesn't have, a wide open hole to run through. And so when you think about it, they got rid of him, obviously to give him a chance, and they knew they already had Kyren coming in. He was now healthy. So there was that. But with Kyren Williams now on the pine for at least a game or two, and Ronnie Rivers, who's very much like him, rolling right now, and he gets hurt, now he's on IR, I think the Rams might kind of come to the understanding like, man, we should probably bring Darrell Henderson back. He's the only one that really makes sense, unless it was Sony Michel. And I think he made more sense than Sony Michel. And before you count out, you discount the idea of them doing some reunion. Oh, well, this isn't just fan service. We're trying to get the best football team together. They already did that. Okay. They did that with Sony Michel. He retired. They did that with John Johnson, who did not retire. He's on the team right now. So it's not out of the realm of possibility for a team to bring back a player, and it's not out of the realm of possibility for the Rams to bring back a player. And furthermore, my co-host of Believe in Rams, Cameron Lynch, was brought back a year later when he played with Tampa. He came back to the Rams. So it's certainly possible. You never want to rule that stuff out, and I think they'd be stupid to rule that out. Make no mistake about it. Darrell Henderson's 2022 season was his worst season in his career, but a big reason for that was the banged up offensive line. You can't on one hand say the offensive line was terrible, but then on another discredit Darrell Henderson for not being able to run behind it. So I think that's one thing there. Also, he's only 26 years old. I hear kicking the tires and I hear this and that. Darrell Henderson's 26 years old for a position that has an average shelf life going up to, age 30. And that's when you start to drop off. He's got at least 4 years of decent football, 3 years of decent football left. I don't know why we're treating him like he's so old when he offers literally everything you would want at the running back spot. Henderson, in his first 8 games before suffering an injury in 2021, was 6th in rushing, 8th in carries, 7th in rushing touchdowns, 6th in 10-plus yard runs, 5th in zone runs, and 18th in gap runs. That kind of says a lot there. Says that he was a good running back. The problem is, 2021, he gets hurt. So you have the Cam Akers torn Achilles, and then, of course, Darrell Henderson's the starter, and then Sony Michel takes over, and we know what happened after that. But Henderson was still finding success before the injury that led to Sony Michel taking over, and that's worth mentioning. He was a key cog in the Super Bowl as well, and he stepped up with an ankle sprain that he probably doesn't play, the next game in, but, it was the Super Bowl. And I just think when you look at it, a big part of Sean McVay running the football is trust. And I think a big thing for him is that he has started to really trust Kyren Williams. It's allowed him to go for 20 carries here and what he was able to do with the Colts. I think he still abandons the run. I don't think it's on purpose. I think sometimes he forgets about it. You get these looks and you got a Super Bowl winning quarterback, MVP, and potential Hall of Famer Matthew Stafford. Yeah, when you have that caliber of player, and obviously I know he didn't win the MVP, but that level of player, that's hard, right? You don't want to deviate from that. And I think it stems from how the whole Jared Goff era ended. I think Sean McVay loves to throw the rock, and he doesn't want to waste any moments with Matthew Stafford. But sometimes you have to run the ball. And I think a big part of this is going to be trust. I don't think Sean McVay is going to trust running the ball with Zach Evans. Okay. I think Zach Evans got 4 carries because Kyren got banged up and Ronnie got banged up. I don't think they necessarily feel great about the plan of Zach Evans being starting running back against a team you need to run the ball, against, because their pass rush can get to you. And that's the only way to, neutralize that pass rush. And furthermore, Royce Freeman, it's nice. He does some good things on special teams and he's a veteran presence, but the Rams have gone out and they've reunited with guys in the past. Like I mentioned, I also forgot to mention Malcolm Brown. This just makes way too much sense. So much so, I'm not going to stop pounding the stump until it happens, because it needs to happen. Because you're going to be without Ronnie Rivers for the next 5 games. You're going to be without Kyren maybe the next 2 games. Go out, get somebody that can help you in the pass protection game, can help you in the run game, can help you in the receiving game, and can be on the field and not give tells to the defenses. Because here's the thing. When Zach Evans is in, he's probably getting the football. When Zach Evans is out, Royce Freeman probably isn't getting the football. He's going to be used in pass pro. It's going to be pretty obvious, and it's going to be a clear distinction as to when they're throwing and running the ball. And this is going to be very much the same as it was week 1 against Seattle, when it was Cam Akers. Every time he was on the field, they pretty much ran the ball. And when it was Kyren Williams, it was a pass. Okay, that's just the way it's going to be. When Cam Akers came in, it was a tell. So the only way to combat that, in my opinion, is to go out and get somebody that can play right away. And the only one that can play right away, it's not Leonard Fournette. It's not Mike Davis. It's not going out and trading for Jake Funk. It's not any of that. It is Darrell Henderson. I've been saying it over and over again. I get a lot of crap for it, but guys, I'm telling you, this isn't just fandom. This isn't just me being a fanboy since I like his game. This makes the most logical sense. I would start Darrell Henderson on Sunday. Okay, I would start him on Sunday. I think he is that much better of an option than Royce Freeman and Zach Evans. I think then you probably have Zach Evans run a little bit to start it out. You have, pretty much Darrell Henderson take the brunt of the workload, and Royce Freeman. It's happened before. It's not crazy. It's one of the positions where you can throw a running back in and have them succeed, but I wouldn't do that for anybody. I do it because you look at Darrell Henderson. He was in this offense last year. It's not going to deviate that much from last year where he's going to be like not knowing the plays or anything like that. So that's my thoughts. Okay. Shocker. I've said it. I could go on and on and on, but Darrell Henderson makes the most sense for this team at the running back position. And you don't know how long that Ronnie Rivers is going to be out. You don't know how long Kyren's going to be out. So when Kyren comes back, I think this allows the Rams to have a true 1-2 punch in Kyren Williams and Darrell Henderson, two guys that can really manipulate defenses because now they can stay on the field at all times because you have Kyren who could be used in the run game, the pass game, and, pass pro, but then you also have Darrell Henderson who can do the same. Darrell Henderson would be the best receiving back on the team. Kyren Williams is probably, at this point, much better of a runner, I would say. He's really impressed me, but Darrell Henderson's a good runner too. And these are probably the two best running backs the Rams have had since Todd Gurley, to be fair. So, my thoughts, exactly. Darrell Henderson, bring him back to the Rams, makes way too much sense. I think they might actually do it. It makes so much sense because I think if they were trying to avoid this, it's now become obvious. Kyren Williams out, Ronnie Rivers out. You got two running backs. They're going to have to add a third. Could be a practice squad guy, but I think it needs to be Darrell Henderson, and I kind of believe it's going to be Darrell Henderson. I've been wrong before, but I kind of believe it's going to be Darrell Henderson. So we'll see what ends up happening. Thank you guys for sticking for the full video. Hoping to see number 27 back in horns. I don't even know if 27 is available, but those are my thoughts. I'll see you guys in the next one. Take care, folks. Later.